What's up, everybody? Here back on the golf cart, utility cart, grain project. Gonna start into the reassembly of everything. Let me take you guys in here and show you what I got going on. I was out of town for a week and I took this into my hotel room and kind of revamped this whole little control board here. So I replaced the old thermal style circuit breaker with a resettable kind. I also put one on the negative so that if I want to disconnect the batteries, all I got to do is pop those two breakers right there. Cleaned up all the terminals on the motor controller here. I cleaned up the ignition solenoid. I replaced the forward and reverse solenoids with some cheap ones from Amazon, and I went through and made all new battery cables. Turned out pretty nice. And then I replaced every bit of wiring here. So this is all the wiring that runs to the front of the cart here. I'll get that all snaked through to the front. I really like these little magnetic zip tie holders. Those are super awesome. I've been using them for a while now. That's about it for this. I got the motor mounted back in here. I had thought about taking this to a motor shop or something and have them look through it, but it works fine, so I will just keep it how it is. I cleaned up the belts and stuff. I didn't replace them yet. There's 4 of them, so should be all right. I did add fluid to the rear end. It was completely empty, so that's cool. Probably should have checked that before I started driving this thing around, but I've really only put about 10 miles on it, so not super concerning to me. I do have to go through the front bearings here, and I'll check those out. They got little grease zerks on the ends of the caps here, so I'll clean those up and get it all greased up. So I got the wiring harness here. This is the main wiring harness that controls your forward and reverse on the cart. This is what makes the cart function. But I'm also going to be adding a bunch of other wiring to the cart for all of my lights. I've got like my 36 volt to 12 volt converter. I've got a fuse block here, and then for all of my rocker switches that I got under the dash. So what I did here, these are all brand new wires. I matched the colors to what was originally on the cart as close as I could. There's 7 wires that power all of that. So I'm going to keep this completely separate from the additional wiring that I'm going to add to the cart. So I'm doing that for simplicity, and in case I ever want to get rid of a bunch of other stuff, it's not going to affect the cart in any way. It's a standalone system, all the lights and headlights, taillights, all that stuff. So what I did here is I just copied the length of this harness. I added a little bit here and there, and then I put a bunch of tape on it and zip ties, so it's all nice. I routed this through the original channels, how they routed the wires originally through here, and I marked all of the spots, like where the gas pedal is. This is where like my fuse box is, and up where the dash goes. So I marked all of those, and then I wrote how many feet or inches or whatever that I need to add at that location, so I have extra wire. So the reason I did this is so that now I can go through and add all of my new wire exactly where it needs to be. So I've got a bunch of wire that's going to be running from the dash to the fuse box. So now I know on this harness where those two places are and how many feet I have to add at each one. So I just measure from one to the other and then add a couple feet as noted, and then I just will take my new wires and zip tie them to this, and then when I go to reinstall all this, it'll all be exactly where it needs to be. So that's the plan. I went through last night. I sat down and did all my measurements, wrote down everything that I need to power, where it needs to go, and all of that fun stuff. So I got all the wires cut and notated where they go, you know, each end. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'll lay them all on here and get it all loomed together. Alright, I got the wiring harnesses semi-routed through here. So I got the parts that are going to the circuit breakers here. Got the tail lights. This is where it goes through. It passes through this cross member, through the frame. And it comes underneath, all the way over here to where my fuse block is. This giant mess of wires is all going to fuses and to the converter wiring for the 36 to 12 volt converter. And then it goes up. It's going to tie into the little brake switch right there. Then it goes under, connects to the gas pedal underneath, and then comes up through this little channel, and it ends here at the dash wiring. So that's the rough layout there. So I'm going to go through. I was going to try to use the little magnetic zip tie mounts like I used back here, these little magnet guys, but as you can see there, it's not strong enough for this big old bundle of wires. So I'm probably going to go through and just drill and tap and use those little stainless steel clamps with the rubber isolators. Here's kind of how I did all my planning. I drew out a little diagram of the cart, the front and the back, where the tail lights are, the batteries, fuse block, all that stuff. And then I went through and wrote down the measurements of specific areas so that I knew the distances and everything. And I went through here and wrote down all of my switches that I had, make sure I had all the different wires that go to each one, fuse block, the converter. In the industrial electrical world that I work in, we would call this a cable schedule. So I wrote out each wire that's going to be part of this wire loom. I wrote them all down, and the length I needed, the color, the gauge, and where it goes from and to. So that's kind of how I did it. Do it however you want. I know I told you guys about these little Deutsch connectors that I'm going to use. Super nice little waterproof connectors. So you got your male and your female. They snap right together. Nice and easy to remove your lights and stuff for servicing or whatever. I don't know about you guys, but I like to make lists and notes and stuff in my phone. Like this one will be labeled Taylor Dunn. This is like stuff I have to do, random notes. Here's how you hook up the forward reverse switch. A bunch of different pictures of how this stuff was wired. That's how I keep track of stuff. Alright, I'm going to show you guys how to assemble these Deutsch connectors. It's pretty simple. First thing you're going to do is get your little pins, and you kind of just line them up and see how much you have to strip off. of each wire. It's not very much. You get your fancy little pliers here. They come with these inserts. This is the insert for this particular style. You just stick it in the hole there and crimp her down. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but inside of there, there's those little teeth that come together in like a little star. Pretty cool. And that's her. You just put that little keeper in there and it snaps in real nice. And these wires can't come back out. They're sealed from water and dust and all that fun stuff. So this is the last bit of wiring I have to do, which is arguably the most difficult. Well, I guess it's not the last part, but it's the next part I gotta work on. So I'm gonna hook all these wires up. Some of them will go to these terminal blocks, some will go to the ground distribution block, and we'll go from there. And of course, a lot of wires go into this guy. Not as many as you think. Most of these are just going to have 2 wires on them. This forward reverse switch is going to have 8. So there's that. We got the crane set on here. Just got a couple bolts holding it on. I cut out these pieces of plywood here. I got the first one mounted on with the hinges. So we got our door here. Next I got to do is mount the hinges for this one, and then mount the seat. Got another board cut for the seat. Got a bunch of wiring done. Here we have some eBay special seats for the golf cart at the bottom and the back. Let's get to work on the rest of these panels. All right, we got the crane mounted back on here. I've been going through in a little bit of free time that I've had every other day, and I got those boards mounted on there. I think I was talking about those in the last video. The seat's not mounted on there yet, but I am going to be working on that tonight. This seat, it used to sit way up here, and I'm going to try to move it back so that it's flush with the back here. Gives you a little extra room there. I think that's about all the updates that I got. Right now I am working, I'll show you. Right now I am working on these little D-ring mounts, or clevis mounts, whatever you want to call these things. They're just little half-inch ones, 2 ton. So one of these could lift up double the weight of this whole cart. It's just kind of a cool little addition. I think they might be handy for random things, even just tying this thing down to a trailer. So that's what I'm working on right now. All right, got them all mounted up there. I think they turned out pretty sweet. So for those of you that are doubting the strength of the rear of this cart, where I mount this giant crane here, because I know I was doubting the strength of it, I just was going to do it anyways. But if you look in here, these holes, so right behind this diamond plate, which is 1/8 inch thick, there is a 1/4 inch thick of steel, like behind this bumper. And that connects to this 1/4 inch angle iron that goes back and welds up into the frame. And right here, there's 5 of these bars. These are like 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch solid steel bars. I did not expect something like this to be underneath of here. I mean, that's got to be 100 pounds worth of metal just in those bars right there. So there's plenty of strength. You can see where I bolted the crane down. We got 5 bolts in the back and 4 up front, all 1/2 inch bolts. So this crane, the weakest point, I guess, is where this attaches to here. But you also have the body that attaches, which is all 1/8 inch steel. So there's a lot of strength built into this whole rear end here. I think we're going to be perfectly fine with everything that we have going on. So what we got going on is my dad and brother-in-law came over yesterday. We got this universal top installed on this guy. I had to modify the brackets a little bit to mount where I wanted it to mount, but not bad at all. Should be the perfect size. We got the seat mounted in here. The back's all mounted up to that metal part, and then the bottom mounts to this wood here, and then this whole wooden part, she slides out so you can access the little compartment there. I got a really cool addition for this crane. That's like a 14-inch hook. It's 10 tons, Crosby. Pretty sweet little unit there. Alright everybody, thanks for following along with this cool build that I had going on here. It's been a really fun project. I worked really hard on it, trying to make this thing as useful as possible for me around the yard. So if you guys want to come see this thing in person, I'm going to be at the Matt's Off-Road Recovery Games here coming up next week. So if you guys are there, come by and check it out. Have a good one.